Welcome to the presentation of Service Transition Policies. My name is Dr. Suzanne Van Hove and I will be your instructor. The topics for this module include a quick review, as well as then the policies used within service transition. Let's look at some of those review concepts. So reviewing some of the key concepts, one of those concepts is the idea of a service. We discussed this in a previous module, a means of providing value to customers by facilitating outcomes customers want without the ownership of cost and risk. We know that services are based on resources and capabilities. The diagram below shows you the various elements within resources and capabilities. Resources and capabilities then become my service assets or strategic assets. We deliver services based on value to the customer, and the elements for value we know are utility and warranty. Utility is fit for purpose, warranty is fit for use. Keep these concepts in mind. They are critical as we go through the next section when we start talking about policies for service transition. A policy is a formally documented management expectation and interaction. It truly provides the rules for a specific action. There are a number of policies within service transition. I'm going to name them off, and it's quite a long list. We will discuss each of them as in the next few minutes. First of all, and the one that I find the most amusing maybe, is that we have to create a policy so that we have policies for service transition. We want to ensure that we have defined the activities within service transition. We have a policy that all changes go through service transition, that we adopt a common framework, that we maximize the reuse of processes and systems, meaning we don't redo. We have an alignment with the business, that we manage stakeholder relationships, that we have a policy that establishes controls and develop knowledge transfer. We also have a policy for the building of a release and deployment package. Other policies include managing course corrections as we develop a change, managing resources, involvement in the service life cycle, quality assurance, proactive improvement, making sure that we have a release policy, and also policies supporting the service validation and testing. So let's look at these individual policies. The first policy we want to look at is the creation of a formal policy for service transition. This policy will provide governance and authority, as well as protect and drive the business interactions. It really is the umbrella that will guide the actions within service transition. The next policy is all changes go through service transition. We want to utilize the controls and management of the change management process, if only to mitigate risk and ensure that when we deliver services that they are done with minimal impact to the organization. Change management offers us a single point of contact and, again, most importantly, manages risk. We want to be able to have a policy around adopting a common framework. We want to standardize the activities so that we can reuse them. It's just efficient. We can improve them over time, but again, it's efficient. We can adjust them to specific changes that may happen in the business and/or technical environments. But once we have that framework, it's easy to adopt and adapt it, again, for effectiveness and efficiency of delivery. We want a policy that will state that we maximize the reuse of processes and systems. We want to align with the established processes and systems within an organization and not reinvent the wheel. We want to develop new processes and systems with reuse in mind. That does make a change in how we work within our IT organization. We want a policy that will align service transition plans to the business. The customer and/or business need are the main drivers for service transition, therefore we should keep them to the forefront. Remember, our actions are for the support and the achievement of business outcomes. We want to ensure that those requirements remain the central focus of all activities. Another policy would be managing stakeholder relationships. We want to establish and maintain relationships with our various stakeholders. meaning the customer, the user, our suppliers, the leadership within the organization, and others as defined within your organization throughout the entire phase. We want to have open communication with these stakeholders that will enable setting and managing expectations. Another policy is to establish a set of controls. We want to control and manage services, the assets, and the CIs that create the services. In doing so, that means, again, we can mitigate risk. To do that, we must have defined roles and responsibilities and be able to manage incidents, problems, and errors during transition activities. We also want to develop knowledge transfer. And that knowledge transfer is important, that we not only have it for historical purposes, but that we also transfer knowledge to service desk agents as well as operational support staff so that that newly transferred, new or changed service that has been just transferred is supportable. We need to have the necessary systems in place to capture, manage, and make available required information. This will improve decision-making skills across the service lifecycle. Another policy is going to be around the release and deployment package. We have to clearly define the build, test, delivery, distribution, and deployment activities for each release and deployment package that has been defined within a service. We also need to manage course corrections, meaning that we need to recognize that change is constant, that change is going to happen in change. We need to prepare plans to accommodate for change. To manage these, we must have good communication. Don't forget the use of the RACI diagrams. We need to manage service transition resources. We should have a defined method to provide and manage those resources so that their effective and efficient use is available and provided. We need to manage the shared specialist resources. There are going to be individuals that will need to work within a variety of projects. We need to be able to use them to the benefit of all projects. Lastly, within that management of of service transition resources, we need to integrate with the business. If you think about it, when we test, some of the testing should be user acceptance testing. So we need to have that direct line with the business to be able, or to have them available with us as a resource. We need to be involved in the service life cycle. So that ensures smooth transitions between service design and service operation, as well as the transfer of information for improvement activities with CSI. We also need to ensure that the customer is involved in service acceptance criteria, testing, and the requirements gathering. We also would have a policy around quality assurance. We want to assess the verification and validation of results of a proposed change and ensure that that change, the new or changed service, is feasible and it's meeting the requirements. Another policy should be around the proactive improvements across service transition, that we want to proactively manage incidents and problems during the testing and or piloting. We want to capture and manage that information, and if it's appropriate, make it available for live operations. We want to work within the organizational risk tolerance climate as well. Our actions have to stay within those boundaries to protect the organizational data, information, and knowledge. Thanks so much for joining us today.